In lecture 4, we're going to talk about eating disorders and self-harm. I just want to read something to you, and this is where there is a differentiation between self-harm and someone who deliberately goes out to do other actions. Telling somebody who self-harms to just stop is like telling somebody with a broken leg to just get up and walk. Telling somebody with an eating disorder to just eat is like telling somebody who's blind to just see. Telling somebody with depression to just smile is like telling somebody with cancer to just get over it. Now, that is very powerful in itself. I mean, that is, when I first read this, I thought, weheartit.com, you can follow the link itself and read this yourself. And there's others up there as well. So you can read all these different ones on this subject. Now, eating disorders, although some people may say that that's more mental health, then it's not. You are deliberately doing an act of self-harm. It is self-harm. You are self-harming yourself to a certain degree that nobody else can come anywhere near you. As we go through this, you will see there are certain different eating disorders. And each eating disorder has a different reason and a different way of being seen. The list includes avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, AFID, or AFID, sorry. Why they make up all these silly weird names, I don't know. The most common of all is anorexia, or anorexia nervosa, binge eating disorder. Bulimia is another one. I don't know whether you remember Princess Diana famously came out and turned around and said she had bulimia. Emotional overeating. Emotional overeating. Now, once we read through what that actually is, you may realise it's probably something you never expected before. Other specified feeding or eating disorder, or OSFED. I do like these little acronyms they give away here, OSFED. Other specified feeding or eating disorder is completely different. That's when every other eating disorder has been thrown out the door, basically, and you're left with someone you can't quite understand what they're doing. Or other feeding disorder. Avoidant restrictive disorder. Yeah? Avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, or ARFID, is where a person restricts the amount of food they intake. Now, they substitute certain foods for foods they like. So, for instance, if someone wants to, how could you put it, eat loads of potatoes, when you say you should really be eating some other greens like broccoli, cabbage, carrots, and so other vegetables, they will deliberately avoid eating those vegetables. Let's make that point clear. They will deliberately avoid eating those. And if you tell them they have to, I can guarantee you 100% they will avoid it even more. There's no good telling them that they need to eat this or they need to eat that, because they won't. They will avoid it. They will avoid every single thing you come across. They prefer smaller portions. So obviously, the smaller the plate, the more they put on it. You may sound silly that the smaller portions is on the smaller plate, but it makes it look bigger. So they say, well, look, I'm eating more than I really do need. And they will do this all the time. They are self-harming. And basically what's happening to their body is they're not gaining any nutrients from what they're eating. What they're eating is really not worth even bothering with. It's like having 4 potatoes a day. The nutritional value of 4 potatoes any day is probably naffle, as far as I'm concerned. They have low energy levels, are most associated, can lead to the patient feeling lethargic. They've got no energy. They've got no get up and So if you're in, say for instance, a school and you find someone seems lethargic all the time, they never do any PE, they never seem to get up and offer any assistance to anyone inside the class, it could well be that they have an avoidant restrictive disorder. They need help. They are self-harming themselves to a degree where their body will eventually shut down. Most of these disorders you can actually find come under the idea of suicide. To get them at an earlier stage where it's self-harm and they've started self-harming and they've been doing it for like 1 or 2 years, it's the most important part of your life. The important part of your life. If you can stop this from becoming something that will lead to something else later down the line, then basically you've helped that person. But remember, listen to what they have to say. Listen to the reasons they give that they do this. Each individual person will have a different reason. Some of these people have been told they're fat. Some of these people have been bullied. And every single one of these eating disorders, you will find exactly the same thing. Anorexia is probably the most well-known eating disorder around. Karen Carpenter, I don't know whether anyone knows her, she was a singer from the 70s, died of anorexia. With an anorexic, they can experience bouts of binge eating, even. So sometimes, you know, they're on an up and everything else, and they binge. But after the binge eating, they start purging. Purging means they probably put their fingers down their throat, make themselves sick, and so on and so forth. These people need your help more than the rest. These people become very, very thin. As we go through the second module on how to look for signs, someone might be anorexic, you will see it's quite simply quite a lot easier than you think. Now basically you're going to learn a lot more than you expected. Some of it you will not learn. The reason is, and the reason that this course actually exists, is because I found there was not enough information on any of this. So professionals were saying to me, and I was saying to them, okay then, fair enough, explain to me, what's self-harm? So I said to them, you know, come on, give me an answer. What is self-harm? And they couldn't. Risk-taking behaviour. Yeah, but it's risk-taking behaviour. Well, what's the risk? Come on, tell me, what's the risk? What risks are they taking? They could not definitively answer. It's all right being book smart from all of the journal articles and everything else, but being savvy to what's happening around you in that one moment is totally different. Others may see an anorexic person as underweight, but the anorexic person sees themselves as overweight. They deliberately buy mirrors to look in the mirror that distorts the actual figure of the body. This is quite common. A lot of people who are anorexic will turn around and buy these mirrors. So they perceive themselves fatter than what they are. So if you come across a mirror in someone's room, if you're a parent and you walk into your daughter's or your son's, don't just think it's a female phenomenon. There are a hell of a lot more young men out there now who are anorexic. It's common, it's commonplace. It's not just one, it's all of them. It's a cross-gender thing now. So basically what we have to make purposefully clear is that if you see a mirror on the wall that distorts a picture of yourself, you could well be dealing with, if, for instance, someone you know and you love so much is underweight, could actually be anorexia. Anorexia, in short, is self-starvation. That's self-starvation. They are not, and I must make this 100% clear, they are not deliberately out there to do any harm to yourself. They're doing their harm to themselves. They're not doing harm to you at all. That is self-harm. Binge eating disorder is quite different. They consume large amounts of food, all in one go. They have special foods. It could be crisps, Twixes, Bounties, whatever. It could actually be meat, red meat. It can be a binge eating because there's so much protein and everything else in it and so on and so forth. They could eat large consumptions of it. Obviously too much meat can lead to other side effects. Binge eating is a mental health issue, but it should be correlated with self-harm. The person's deliberately harming themselves by overindulgence. They're not doing it because they don't love you. They're not doing it because they want you to do something else. They're doing it because they need to do it. They've got themselves into a state where they're actually going to do it. Something's happened. Something's triggered it. Could be any amount of things. Doesn't make any difference what it is. Something has triggered that binge eating, and now they're going to binge eat. No matter what, they're going to do it. And they will find spaces to do binge eating. It can happen any time during the day. It could happen in the locker room at school. In their locker, they could actually hide their stash. So during the school day, they could be binge eating in the school. You don't know. If you think for 1 minute you're going to be able to stop them by actually taking away their pocket money, think again. Because there's so many convenience stores out there now that buy one, get one free, they're still going to be able to buy all these things in mass production. And the detrimental effects on the health of the binge eater are they're overweight. Sometimes the weight fluctuates. They've never got a normal body mass index, and they're always, some of them can be in and out of hospital quite regular because of not being able to move. You know, they're lethargic, they trundle along, and basically, they basically do things that you don't expect, but you can see it. But don't think for 1 minute you're going to be able to stop them from doing that. By saying, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. Remember, talking is the key. As I said, 87.3% of the cohort that I did my dissertation with were turned around and said, they did not listen to me. We have to make this point clear. If you want to help people, and you sincerely want to help people, you must turn around and you must listen. The first stage of recovery is listening. It's not telling. Never tell anyone anything. Because the minute you turn around and tell them something, they're going to turn around and say, I'm going to do the opposite. You have the opposite effect on that person. Bulimia. Similar to anorexia, is very, very prevalent. Even more so in some places than others. Bulimics consume large amounts of food once and compensate for this by way of vomiting, known as purging the body. Bulimia can affect anyone at any age. You might not be bulimic today, but you could be bulimic tomorrow. Yes, any age. That means even in your hundreds, if you live it not. One misconception is that bulimics lose weight but actually maintain an average weight over their entire lifetime. So it fluctuates. Goes up, comes down. Goes up, comes down. So they're more or less in that in between. Once it goes up, it will come back down. Right. So it's like a set of scales. You imagine the scales, once they've got a balance, because remember, they're purging the body. So there's no nutrients going in. None. There's none of those extra nutrients going in, making any difference to the weight of the body. Emotional overeating. When I first learned about emotional overeating, I thought, blimey, I never expected that. It says, those that emotionally overeat tend to use the mechanism as a way of comfort. Think of comfort food. Although having comfort food is not emotional overeating. I thought, hang on a second. And this is taken from our site. Emotional overeaters tend to do this on a certain basis, low self-esteem or distress, thus allowing for large amounts of food consumed. Right, let's read that again, and then we'll break it down. It says, emotional overeaters tend to do this on a certain basis, low self-esteem or distress, thus allowing for large amounts of food to be consumed. So when they're in a low mood, when they're distressed, they overeat. Yeah? Comfort food, on the other hand, is where someone goes out, they buy their comfort food and they say, this is my comfort food. And comfort food will be bought more than once. Emotional overeating will happen once, as I said before, periodically. Could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be 1 year. Comfort food, people who go out and comfort eating, they say, I'm going to have one of my comfort foods, like a nice little cake, thank you very much. And basically they will buy that once a week. That's comfort food. Remember that is comfort food. Emotional overeating happens when, and only when, a person is on low self-esteem or is distressed. Distress could be anything from distress that a parent has got problems. They can't hack the idea that their loved one is being overly punished for something that they've done, or they think they don't, or they don't think that they actually have done. But if you get the idea, you'll understand that basically these people are turning around and they're using other people's distress to compensate for their own emotional well-being. They are extremely hard to talk to. That means they are extremely hard to talk to, because you have to understand what the low self-esteem is. It could be body image. It could be, oh, I went to the barber's and the barber's done my hair all wrong. I can't stand it. It could be anything like that. And as I said, distress could be anything from themselves, they're in distress, or someone that they love is in distress. There are two different things. But they will only do this on those episodes. They will only emotionally overeat on those episodes. They will not deliberately go out and emotionally overeat every week. That is comfort food. Other specific feeding or eating disorder. Yes, this one we really love. It's a specific diagnosis when the main criteria of anorexia, bulimia and binge eating disorder do not quite fit the pattern of the other three main disorders. Hey, what? Okay, let's read that again. Other specific feeding or eating disorder is a specific diagnosis when the main criteria of anorexia, bulimia and binge eating disorder do not quite fit the pattern for the other three main disorders. In other words, if someone's anorexic, you will know. If someone's bulimic, you will know. If someone is binge eating, you will know. If someone shows all three together, on the other hand, then they have other specified feeding or eating disorder. Other specified feeding or eating disorder. One such difference is those that what they call night eating syndrome. This is where someone stashes away food for the night time and they eat. They eat over night time. The problem with eating over night time is you can't get no sleep. If you can't get no sleep, for instance, if you're a child, then basically getting up for school the next day is going to be quite problematic. So they will spend a long time eating at night. It could be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, depends. But they will do it at night. So when they're supposed to be asleep, they're actually eating. Where they stash their food and that can be anywhere. Could be inside the mattress, could be inside the pillows, could be anywhere. It could actually be walking down the stairs to the kitchen, going into the kitchen, or walking out into the hallway, if you live in a flat, go into the kitchen and eating food while everyone else they know is asleep. And you will not know that they're doing it. You will not know. You may think, oh, little Tommy, little Jenny has put on a bit of weight, but you won't know why. Because while you're asleep, you cannot burn calories. You cannot burn calories to a significant amount where you will get rid of all the food that these people actually eat during the night. You'll get rid of some calories, but you won't get rid of all of it. Also, maybe it's night eating syndrome I'm dealing with. My self-harmer is eating at night. Other feeding disorders. Other feeding disorders, believe it or not, are not categorised by the DSM-5 at a level that can be explained comprehensively. However, it is recommended that if there are signs similar to that of other disorders that you feel are present, then seek medical advice immediately. And I mean immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, not immediately. Now you can have 5 or 6 different signs from all of them. The whole lot. But if you don't do anything, this person is self-harming themselves. They have psychological changes in all of these. They will all have psychological changes, but even more so if you've got other feeding disorders. In other words, every single thing you eat is no good. Every single thing you purge is done you no good. Your liver, your kidneys, your heart and everything else, they will shrink. Low blood sugars means you could actually end up fainting, feeling dizzy during the day, so on and so forth. Eating disorders are rare self-harm, but they have to be classed as self-harm. These people are not doing anything to you. They are doing it to themselves. That is self-harm. In the next module, we will be looking at symptoms of all the methods of self-harm and how they can be spotted by parents and professionals. With this, the next module will look at coping strategies for those that come in contact with those who self-harm. And there's coping strategies just for yourselves. Because obviously if someone actually turns around and tells you something, the first thing is you feel fearful. So what we're going to do is we're going to do coping strategies where you don't feel fearful, you actually turn around and then you can actually help these people more efficiently. Here is a list of the references. Thanks for listening to this lecture.